Hey guys, and welcome back to Disgustingly Easy, the podcast for the long game. So, today's episode is very special. I mean, I feel like I say that with every episode, but today even more so because I'm actually joined by someone who has been a part of the long game community for a long time now and whose journey I think a lot of women are going to see themselves in. So, I am here with my good friend Ruby, who is a long game member turned long game ambassador turned our very first team member working inside the long game. Ruby originally stalked the long game for about 6 months before joining. And honestly, that's not unusual. A lot of women sit on the edge for a while, watching, reading, trying to decide if it's the right fit. And when she did join, she came in with a really common experience. So the kind of experience where food and exercise have felt really black and white in the past, very moral. You're either doing really well or you're falling off the bandwagon, where you start strong, you maybe fall off again, start again, and feel like you're always somehow perpetually behind. Since joining, Ruby has had a pretty incredible shift in how she thinks about her body, about her training, about food, and what health can actually look like. And as I said, she went from being a member to becoming one of our very first ambassadors, talking about the long game on social media. And now she's actually working inside the program as our community and ambassador coordinator, helping support the women inside the space and helping me as well to grow the long game into everything I imagine it can be. And to make things even more interesting, to make it even cooler, to make her even more badass, she's also doing this whilst 26 weeks pregnant with her third baby. And she's been really open about how different this conception and this pregnancy experience has been compared to previous ones. So today we're going to have a really good chat, nice and relaxed, about what it was like before she joined the long game, what actually changed for her that got her across the line, what the community is like from the inside, from an actual member, and what happens when women stop trying to punish themselves into health and start actually playing the long game. So, Ruby, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction.
You're so welcome. Now, as I said, you lurked the long game, and you and I actually had DM conversations for maybe about 6 months
Yeah.
before you joined. So, what was going through your head, or what were you kind of weighing up before you decided to go all in and join us?
The way that I found your Instagram was someone was sharing about it and talking about her experience working with you specifically with binge eating. And that was something that for me, it was like, I felt like I could get everything else under control. I felt like I could get my exercise under control for the most part, but I just kept coming back to this kind of disordered eating behavior where I was either super restrictive or just binging like crazy. And it was just so like that was the thing that I just kept coming back to, is that was my issue. And so when this person started sharing about her experience with you, that's how I got onto your Instagram. And I would keep looking, and like it would come up in my stories and stuff, and I'd like send a few messages and then be like, oh crap, like I don't know if I can commit to this. Like at the time I was 30 or 31, and it's like every single thing that I'd done up to that point in my life to do with health and fitness had been an 8-week, 12-week kind of thing where it was like smash it out, get really great results, and then I'm burnt out and in no better place than I was at the very beginning. And so it was scary to kind of think about committing to something again when I felt like the story that I told myself so far was nothing's going to work. I'm broken. I'm just going to have to live with this forever. It was kind of a thing that I was going back and forth with. And, like, I guess what would happen with me was like I'd feel under control with my eating and everything would be fine. And then things would go out of control again. And then I'd think, oh, maybe I should join. Maybe I should start up. Maybe I do need this support. But it was scary to take that jump. And also being a stay-at-home mom, pretty much, I was only working like very rarely. It felt like investing in myself in that regard was kind of selfish, and saying that that was something that we were going to spend our money on felt selfish. But yes, as it turns out, it's not selfish.
I mean, we can get so deep into that, especially off the back of last week's podcast,
Yeah.
which was household money is not his money. If people haven't listened to that one, it's a hot take. So you go back and have a listen. But What do you think was the thing? Because I know, in my sales process, and people will know if they've DM'd me, I am not salesy in the sense of I'm not
Mm,
going to tell you all the reasons you should join, because in the end, I want people coming across feeling like it was an empowered decision and that's something that they decided to do for themselves, not because I poked at their pain points or I, pushed or spoke to results that they could maybe get and try and tempt them over that way. I want people to come across because they're like, I'm going to do this for myself. And I know I
mm.
probably could sell a lot more and a lot faster if I did some of those more salesy things. But what was the thing that got you across the line that was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to do this?
Well, I guess, with the 6 or so months of stalking, shall we say, the conversations that we had were, it was just like a friendly conversation. It was like you were just a friend and you were just like, I was just replying to your stories and we were friends. And yeah, it didn't feel salesy in that way. And there was something that you shared. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember I was in bed laying next to my, at the time, 1 year old, who I was co-sleeping with. I was still breastfeeding. I was like very burnt out. And, I was doing my late night scrolls and I responded to something and you messaged back and something like, you kind of were like, just fucking do it or something like that. Like, as in, come on, like you've been talking to me for so long. Like, you want to do this. Just do it. Just take the leap and do it. I was like, you know what? Fuck yes. Like I need to do this. And so I signed up. And then initially I was kind of scared because I was like, what have I committed to now? And again, those thoughts of thinking like, okay, it's going to be the same thing that I've been in before where, I don't know, you've lured me in and now it's like going to be like, okay, well, you got to do these 100 billion things that's not realistic and you can't commit to. And the first thing, it was like a couple of days after I'd signed up, the first thing you said, because I think at the time you were doing rounds. So when I signed up, I wasn't starting for another couple of weeks. And you offered and said, let's do a one-on-one call and let's just talk about it. Let's just talk about what we're going to do, what the plan is. And in that one-on-one call, I was like, you got me. You understood, you listened, you understood where I was coming from. And it didn't feel like it was just a fitness or just a food perspective. It was like so much of this mindset stuff, which was what I really needed at the time.
So when you came in, I guess let's think to like your first 4 weeks, because obviously it's very tempting when people come into a new program to want to hit the ground running, which is why I have what we currently have in Long Game, which is like an onboarding course, which is a series of about 7 videos, and why I'm building that out. Ruby's been helping me build that out into a much more comprehensive onboarding experience. Because I remember you messaging me about the onboarding course. What was different about that compared to what you'd done in the past?
This was another thing that you sort of allowed me to have access to the course before I kind of went in to everything of the long game, which is similar to this next program that you're rolling out. It was just so clear and there was so much information. I think the thing that was really, I guess, empowering about it was that it was like, it wasn't giving you all of this information and treating people like they were idiots. It was coming from this place of like assuming that a lot of people have a lot of knowledge about this and that have probably been going in and out of these things for their whole lives. But it was just, all this information there. You can take notes, you can learn as you want to, you can consume it how you want to. And like I'm very much like a pen and paper kind of person. I was sitting there like writing my notes and I just loved that. So then I had that as preparation. And then when I came into the actual program, I felt like I had an understanding of, or like the background of where you were coming from. And I could refer back to those notes if I needed to, and just, go from there. But it was really it was different from the perspective of, feeling like you're getting this information, not as a person that's like never ever done this before, but more just complementing all of the knowledge that you already have, or just streamlining it and showing you like, this is research.
If people don't know what we're talking about in terms of the onboarding course, when you come into Long Game, it's a series of videos, and the purpose behind it is knowing from my own experience and exactly what you said. Like, we go into programs like 12-week, 8-week, and they're like, do all these workouts, do all this, do all this. And it's very big from the start. And what I know
Mm,
about most women, especially neurodivergent women, especially ADHD women, is that we will go in and we'll go hard really, really fast from the beginning, and then we will burn out, fall off, feel ashamed of ourselves. And that's when people ghost. And so I wanted to have something in there where it was like, watch this first. And it's a series of videos.
mm,
It's like, here is how you're going to work out how many days a week you should exercise. Because yes, there's 4 workouts available when you start, but not everyone should do 4 workouts a week. And here's how you work that out. Here's how you do a life audit. Here's how you evaluate your capacity. And then the second one, the second set of videos is all about your nutrition. And it's like, here's how you work out what you're going to eat when you
mm,
start. Not everyone should count calories. Not everyone should count macros from the start. For some of you, it's going to be about just being a bit more aware and having a bit more whole foods and trying to eat a bit less crap or have a bit less takeaway. Other people are going to have capacity to go full macro, things like that. And it speaks to all these different things. And like, yeah, you can do it. But especially at the beginning, I wanted to have something that was like, but you don't have to do everything right.
mm. Yeah. And it's like all of this information is here and you can come back to it as you need to the whole time. Yeah.
What were you expecting long game would be versus what did it actually turn out to be for you?
I guess the expectation that I had was just that it was going to be similar to any other program that I'd done where it's sort of you're there for 12 weeks, you do like 5 workouts a week, grueling, it's hard work, you feel amazing at the end, and then you're kind of left. I would go into everything that I went into with this amazing idea, I'm going to lose 50 kilos and I'm going to completely change my life and all of these things. And so, a part of me was like, okay, like it's going to be like that. It's going to change my life. I'm going to lose the weight and it's all going to be amazing. Then, I mean, that's the same mindset that you have for any other thing that you do. And then inevitably you end up burning out at like 4 or 5 weeks in. You can't keep going with it and you just fall off. So, yeah, I had high hopes for it. I was excited about it, but it definitely wasn't what I expected in terms of it wasn't like go hard right from the start. I remember one of the things that you said to me was like something like you do like you spend 100% of the time at 60% capacity. And it's like that's just over half your capacity. To imagine living my life where I don't have to go or I'm not expecting to go at 100% all the time. It was just like mind blowing for me. It was like, what do you mean I can just do 60% and still achieve things? Like I just was like so stuck on this for so long. And it was like you were giving me permission as well. Cause I think it was either it was either in the onboarding or you said that in our first one-on-one call. And it was like you were giving me permission to be like, you don't have to be 100% and perfect all the time. You can just do it at 60% and see what happens. Like you'll be okay.
From the beginning, I love the way you've approached everything in long game. And I use you as an example all the time because you don't actually do the workouts in long game. You've
Mm,
got a gym that you go to and you like their classes. And it's something I try to encourage. And it comes back to that idea of doing things at 100%. People think when they purchase or sign up to long game that if they're going to make this investment, there's this conversation around, well, I need to make it worthwhile or I need to engage
mm,
with every single aspect of the app. And I find people are cutting off their nose to spite their face because they're like, well, I love your work. I love the conversations you have on Instagram. I'm really interested in your mindset stuff and all of that kind of thing. But I already go to the gym, so I wouldn't be using the app to its fullest
mm,
potential. And it's like, well, don't you think you'd be getting something from being on the calls? You don't think you'd get something from the mindset coaching side of things? Like, there's so many reasons to join long game, and the way it's evolving into this ecosystem now, I think everyone in the program truly understands that like you probably can't now engage with every single aspect because there's so
so
much
much.
to it. But I love the way you've come in and you're like, I know that the calls and engaging with Beck, engaging with the community and doing all of the mindset coaching aspects of long game is going to change my life, whether or not I can do the workouts. What's been the biggest or most impactful thing that you think you've learned? I guess, in your time with long game?
Yeah, I think, so not having to do everything 100% and that there isn't any rush
Mm,
to get things done. And I think, I mean, this has been particularly relevant and useful to me, I guess, in the last 6 or so months navigating a pregnancy because I was um, kind of in a really good routine and like getting into a good habit of going to the gym. And then obviously your body changes as you're pregnant. And, I think about how I am mindset wise in this pregnancy compared to other pregnancies. I know that, I'm going to get to the end of this. And even if I just go to one workout a week for a year afterwards, I'm going to be okay. Like, it's not like I need to, be smashing it at the gym straight after 12 weeks. Like, it's just this calmness. I don't know if that's the right word, but just that it's going to be okay. There's no pressure. There's no, what's the word like? Urgency to do everything and to fix everything because it will be all right and it will work out and you just have to do it slowly because I mean, what everything that I was doing before this was like I say, going hard 6 weeks, 12 weeks and then you burn out for 3 months after. So what's the point? You could have just gone slowly and then you would have been all right. So
yeah.
I think that's one of those two things are the big takeaways. For me, I have the gym that I go to, but I didn't, and I don't think I realized how much I needed the mindset side of things. I was always looking for, I just need another gym thing. I just need to be able to know how to do stuff at the gym. I need to be able to know how to do the workouts, like as if someone who has studied personal training is going to give me the magic button to be able to fix all of my problems. And so I guess, in terms of the way you market, like I think maybe a lot of people think the same, like that's what they need. That's their driver. And then they don't realize that it's actually a lot of the mindset stuff. And that's why this is so different because I've never had a program where we're actually looking at the mindset and we're looking at why you're thinking the way you are or why you respond the way you do to different things. And it's just, yeah, I think it's just that change, that shift in the way I see things, the way I see myself and no pressure, no urgency. It's really nice. It's just,
Yeah.
it's a nice place to be. It feels
Well,
good.
it's like that side of things when you take away the pressure and the urgency that is normally is aesthetic driven anyway. So
Mm,
firstly, we have to learn to be okay with ourselves as we are. Because when we're driven by needing to change our aesthetic, or when I say that, it's like needing to change how we look, that comes from a discomfort or not liking how we look. So when you don't like how you look, we have this like urgency or this, like I talk about it in long game, this away from motivation because I'm trying to get away from that feeling and I want to get away from that feeling as quickly as possible. But then what happens is people get away from it, they lose a bit of weight. And if that is your only source of motivation, if that's the only way you know how to motivate yourself or to find any drive, second you get away from it far enough that it's no longer so uncomfortable, we lose motivation and then we
mm,
have that inevitable backslide. But I love how when people come into long game and they might have a few false starts where
mm,
they, go a bit too hard and they're learning to adjust, right, to this new pace, this new idea of like, it doesn't have to all be so urgent. We don't have to get all the results right now.
mm,
And they say, like, "I can't believe how nice it feels to have a whole year to work on this
mm, mm,
versus what we have done in the past." Like you said, the 8-week challenge, the 6-week challenge, or just before Christmas, I saw so many places
mm,
doing, "Come do 20 workouts in 4 weeks." Like, I understand that there is a good intention there. Well, really, there's not. The intention there is to sign members for the new year. Like,
yeah.
come do
But you
5
think you think
workouts.
because it's the gym, you're like, "Oh, that's good." They must
Yeah.
they must have good
Yeah.
intentions, right?
But really, they just want you to get really good results from the 5 workouts that you slog out a week, and then you'll be so impressed by the results that you'll sign up. But then when it just goes back to regular programming and maybe, you come back and you don't find you've got the motivation because you've lost 5 kilos already and you're not feeling so bad about yourself anymore, and then you don't go because you can't get yourself to feel that feeling again or that drive. The idea behind long game is like, I want people to work out for their longevity. I want people to understand and recontextualize their body as a vessel through which they experience life. And can you do the things you need to? Can you lift your kids? Could you, go to the park and play with your kids and run around? If something happened, God forbid, could you carry your kids if you needed to? Could you carry your
Mm.
partner? Love to make the joke about how I can put my husband over my shoulder and I can walk up and down the stairs. And it's very funny. But at the same time, that might
It's
be
useful.
something
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
might need to do one day. It is constantly on my mind of it can't just be about whether I look good in a
Mm.
dress for inevitably the male gaze. It can't be about that anymore. And it's almost like wanting to graduate women from yeah, that was all fun in our 20s, but we're grown ups now. And
Mm.
do we really still care about this? Or maybe it's not for the male gaze, maybe it's for your mother or your mother-in-law or for the approval of your high school friends. Can we not graduate from this a little bit?
Mm.
Can we
Mm.
not be a bit more grown up about it and a bit more independent and a bit more badass and a bit more, I don't know, focused on ourselves and what we can do and what we enjoy?
And how freaking good it feels to be strong and just, I don't know, to just be doing it for
Capable.
enjoyment rather than doing it for, yeah, to try and change your body. Fueling your body enough that you actually can feel strong so that you actually can, progress with your weights. Because I think my whole 20s, eat the least amount of possible and do as much cardio as possible. And I was like, I love lifting weights. I love lifting weights and it feels so freaking good. And now it's like, I can do that. I can fuel my body and, I'm not motivated by the way my body looks, but how it feels. I'm not, I think I said the other day in one of the check-ins, I'm not motivated by how much weight I'm dropping on the scales, but how much weight I'm lifting. That feels cool. That feels strong. I
And
love
I
it.
think it gives you a different way to feel a sense of achievement with regards to your
Mm.
body. So, when we're younger and when we're growing up, and when people are viewing us and commenting on our appearance, which was very big, we're moving away from that culturally. We're realizing that's not so appropriate nowadays. But, I know in my 20s when I lost weight, I got compliments. And when I put weight on, I got other comments from people in my family.
Mm.
And when you think about your body and its only function is to either get compliments or avoid people saying negative things about it, when you
Mm.
can go into the gym and you can experience, what it feels like to get stronger and start lifting heavier weights. And when I first started working out, the heaviest I could deadlift was 40 kilos. That was my 1 rep max. That was what I could do one time. And there was a pregnant lady next to me lifting twice that, which floored me. And now I can do a 120 kilo deadlift. So to have this sense of my body has a purpose outside of aesthetics or outside of looking good or outside of impressing someone, it
Mm.
achieves things in other ways. And I have other metrics through by which I can feel that sense of achievement. I think it just opens up this whole new perspective for so many
Mm.
women because, yeah, previously it's all my body was good for was does it look good? And
Mm.
now the idea that I come home and I love saying to my husband, oh my God, okay, guess what I did? And he
Mm.
knows, or he has been informed that he's supposed to be really excited about whatever I say. I'm today I did this many pull-ups and I had a weight around my waist and da da da. And
Mm.
it's so exciting and it's so fun to have something to be excited about, especially as a parent and a business
Mm.
owner and someone who's incredibly focused.
Mm.
What have been some of your highlights or your achievements over the last year?
Oh, I was just as you were telling that story, I was just thinking about this one. So my husband, when he was younger, he was kind of a professional boxer, and I've been doing some boxing at the gym that I go to. And I don't know, one time we had the pads and the gloves out, and I was just showing him what I was doing because I was like, "How? What do you think this is good? I've been doing this." And I remember doing some punches, and he was like, "Holy crap!" He was like, "You are strong," and I was like, "Yes." He thinks I'm strong, and he was almost scared. He was like, "Whoa." I've
Yeah.
never seen you have this drive and have this power before. And so that is one of my favorite things that I've done in the last little bit. And yeah, just having those kinds of achievements. And, I was excited about chest pressing, 2 15-kilo dumbbells. I was just starting to do some running just before I
Oh,
fell
that's right.
pregnant, but we'll get back to that. Because, yeah, I'd never seen myself as a runner. And then I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to do like the running program that you've got. Yeah, there's just been so many good things. Even stuff like we have a really steep driveway. We were doing a lot of gardening. Our green bin, like with all the green waste, was just so full packed. Normally I'd be like, oh, just leave it for my husband, like he'll bring it up, but it was going to storm. And so I decided I'll just pull the bin up to the road for it to be collected. And like I was doing it with ease. And it was just all of these things that I was able to do and have more, like, what's the word? Like I could just do things without thinking about them, without being like, oh, I don't know if I'm strong enough. I don't know if I'm like fit enough. I don't know if I'm capable enough. I'm like, I can just do it now. And I just thought of another thing that was amazing. Something like, so I've got an almost five, he's turning 5 tomorrow, an almost 5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. And I remember my 5-year-old, well, my 4-year-old saying, oh, Mummy, can you carry me to the lounge room? And I was like, no, I can't, darling. I'm sorry. And he goes, but Mummy, you've been going to the gym. You can carry me. So it's like he sees me going to the gym. He knows that I'm getting stronger. He knows that that is what the gym is for getting stronger. And I'm loving that that's the kind of impression that I'm putting on the kids, that, we go to the gym to get strong, to get fit, to get healthy, not to change the way our body looks necessarily. So, yeah.
I love that, especially because you've got 2 boys too. So I
Yeah.
love that, so many times women might talk to me about wanting to go to the gym and set good examples for their daughters and show them that, women, like exactly like you said, the purpose of the gym is not to change your aesthetic. The purpose of the gym is to get stronger and capable and feel like a badass. And I love though, because I have a son as well, like impressing upon him that like mum gets to have her time.
Hmm.
I am allowed to do things outside of the house that have nothing to do with you, and you don't get to stop me or I don't sacrifice that time for anyone.
Mm,
Also, yeah, he gets to see that women can be strong and women can be capable and mum can lift just as many things as dad can lift and mum can do just as much stuff as dad can do. And there's
mm,
no real conversations in our household around like dad needing to do something because mum isn't capable. And that to
mm,
me is super exciting.
mm.
I love all of that. I want to shift the conversation to food slightly because I remember when you started having conversations around food and around tracking, and you have a history with eating disorder. What has been your journey in long game? I guess I'm interested in like where were you when we started, and where have we moved to now that you've been with the program for nearly a year?
Yeah. So when I was about 14, 15, not intentionally, but I started doing rowing with school. And as part of our rowing, we had like a 6-week like training program that we had to do at home while we were on school holidays so that we could come back and still have fitness. And so I did a bit of like some of those things. I was doing rowing just because a lot of my friends were doing it and it looked fun. And I did some of these fitness things. And then as a result, because I was just moving my body a bit more, my body changed. And then obviously because I had been away from school or not seen some of my friends for like 6 weeks, it was pretty noticeable when I came back that things had changed in my body. And then I started to get a lot of compliments and people would say like, you look great, you look amazing. What have you been doing? And I was like, oh, I've just been like riding my bike, like just trying to do these fitness things for rowing. But it was like I was getting all these praise from my friends, from my mom, like all of these people were like thinking, wow, you're doing so good. And so immediately in my head, it was just starting to start this story of like smaller is better, like smaller is more.
I get compliments.
Yeah, it's nicer for people. Like people like to see you when you're smaller. People are nicer to you, like all of these things. And then I think what ended up happening was, the rowing season finished and I guess I wanted to continue this to look smaller. And so I started restricting my food more and more and it would go from like, just not eating my lunch and then just not eating lunch or dinner. And then eventually it was going like multiple days without me eating. And I didn't realize what I was doing. Like it wasn't an intentional thing of like, I'm going to, I don't know, just stop eating to lose weight. But it was like, well, I'm not doing as much activity now, so I don't need as much fuel. So I don't have to eat as much. And then eventually, so it took about 8 or 9 months for me to like think I lost like 30 kilos or something. And, I was, as a 15-year-old, you're like, I wasn't that big to begin with. And so it was pretty extreme. Then so I went into like the hospital and they did like a like sort of treatment, and they pretty much said, if you can't put on weight, you're going to be admitted to hospital. And I was, and still kind of am, like shit scared of hospitals. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll eat, like it's fine. I'm just gonna eat. And so like I went home, I was allowed to go home, and then like I just started eating like normal. And then, like couple weeks in, it was fine. Like all of my vitals had, gone back to normal. They were happy with my physical progress. And eventually, like over time, started to put the weight back on, and they were happy, like the doctors were happy with that and everything. And, everyone was happy and good. But I still, because it sort of happened so quickly with almost being like fully restricting to then like eating like too much, I just never had this easy or like balance in between the two things. So I never really knew. So from 16 years old, I never really knew how to eat properly if it wasn't restricting or if it wasn't binging. And this was something that I can like continued into my 20s, and something that I guess it is like this pain point for me where it's like I kept coming back to this thing of like, I actually just don't know how to eat. I don't know how to eat properly. I was always trying to not eat too much, and then that was always leaving me too super hungry. And, I was just swinging between these two things. And like I said at the beginning, it was very much, this was where I felt like I needed help. And when I came into the long game, I would say, I was talking to you about how I just feel like I want to eat chocolate all the time, and like, just want to do all these things. And two of the things that you told me to do was to increase my calories, like eat more, and also to just have a week or something where I just let myself eat what I want and like just eat the chocolate without the guilt. And that practice of just eating whatever I wanted without any guilt was really, really helpful, because for so many years, like 20 years of my life, there was always guilt attached to whatever I was eating. And just to have that freedom and just to be like, okay, I can eat it if I feel like it. And so we did that, and then I did my calories to like over 2,000 calories, and it was like, this is so much food. Like, you've got to be joking me. Like, I cannot eat over 2,000 calories, and I did, and I had like every day I had like a maxi bon in there for my dessert, because after like after the kids have gone to bed, like me and my husband would like have our maxi bonds together, and I included that in my day. And all of a sudden, like I felt better. I had more energy. The scales actually started dropping, even though I was eating more. And for the first time in my life, it was like, you don't have to restrict your food to change your body, to lose weight. And it was just like this realization that you can be nourished. And that's what I was sort of saying before, is like, you can nourish your body and go to the gym and have energy for this and feel amazing. You don't have to be like either starving yourself or completely off the path, like you can just be existing, and you can just be eating and fueling your body and still making progress, and like that's actually okay.
Yeah. I remember having conversations with you about needing to increase your calories, and it being like getting the sense from you that it felt treacherous or
Mm,
like naughty, or like we were doing something that was so like, oh my God, I couldn't tell anyone. We've got to be so covert and sneaky.
yeah.
And I think, there's so much research out there now that I think women spend on average 30 years, like women across the board spend on average 30 years of their life dieting.
Mm,
And it is back to those aesthetic desires or trying to meet some kind of aesthetic standard. But if I were to ask you back then, like what you were dieting for or when you were going to stop dieting, would you have had an answer in mind, like a plan or anything? It was like, or was it more, I guess I just keep restricting until get to a place where I feel
yeah.
okay with myself?
Yeah, I think it was that kind of like, I'm just going to have to eat like this forever. I'm just going to have to be dieting forever. And that's what I mean when I'm sort of like, it was shocking to be able to eat more, like eat enough to actually feel satisfied, to feel like I wasn't like going to bed hungry kind of thing. Like that was in my mind. I was like, that's the only way that you can change your body. You have to feel a little bit hungry in order to be like changing your body. And it was like, no, actually, you have to eat enough every day because like say you eat 2,000 calories every single day consistently. So your body it's predictable. Your body knows that it's going to get the meals. You're not like, like, oh, am I going to fast for 12 hours? Am I going to have a huge big meal? Am I just going to have a little bit? And, instead of trying to be like, okay, no, I'm going to do 1,000 calories every day, and you do that for 4 days. And then for like the last 3 days of the week, you eat like 6,000 calories because you
Yeah.
just are so hungry. Like, when you could
Yeah.
have just stepped it out and done 2,000 every day, felt good. You don't get that massive crash. It's just like, it's like the most simple thing of like, just eat. But, it goes against everything that I'd known. And I think also for me, because I'd had that disordered eating experience, like the story that was in my head was the only way that you can lose weight is by reducing your food so significantly
Yeah.
that you're pretty much not eating anything, because that was the only way you were successful last time.
Yeah.
And of course, like once you've done that to your body, it's so much harder to do that because your body's going to fight. Your body doesn't want you to be starving. It's going to be
Yeah.
fighting against that the whole time. You're going to be in
Not to
stress.
mention how different your life and your lifestyle would have been at 16 versus your
Mm,
life and your lifestyle now as a 30 something with kids and
mm,
stress and hormones and all of the things added into the mix. And it's a conversation I have, I hazard to say, I understand binge eating disorder as a disorder, and I hazard to say that this is the way you always fix it. But I have to say there's not been a single woman in Long Game who's come to me expressing issues around binging that hasn't alleviated those issues through actually tracking what she's eating, understanding what her daily caloric and macro requirement is, and then meeting that requirement. Not a single person has come to me in Long Game and not had this issue solved through eating enough. And if you think about it, so much of the like demonizing hunger and
mm,
talking to ourselves as if we are bad or immoral or doing something wrong when we are hungry and then we go eat.
mm,
But when you actually think about it and step it out, if you undereat throughout the day, if you don't prioritize getting a good breakfast and a good lunch, and if you're not hungry at breakfast time, go back and listen to something like episodes 3 or 4, where Lucia, our batch queen, talks about hormones and
mm,
hunger and how not feeling hungry in the morning is not a sign of health, and it is not an inherent trait, and it is not something that you should be experiencing. But if you are not getting a good amount of calories in, and then you put the kids to bed, it's stressful as fuck. You come downstairs, you have under-eaten all day. Of course, your knee-jerk reaction is going to be
mm,
to self-soothe through eating a high quality of simple carbohydrates, of sugar, of chocolate, of whatever you can get your hands on, whatever is in the fridge. And then you feel so ashamed of yourself that you finish the packet, and then you take the packet and then you hide it at the bottom of the bin because you
mhm,
feel awful. You say, tomorrow, I am going to be much better at this. And then you repeat the whole thing tomorrow. You wake up, you don't eat enough because you tell yourself, I'm going to eat, quote unquote good. I'm going to be good. And then the whole thing repeats because again, you undereat all day. One of
mm,
the women in Long Game, her recent goal, which I thought was excellent, was 1,000 calories. So rather than focus so much on what she ate in the day, she was like 1,000 calories by lunchtime. Because
mm,
she's like, she told me, if I know that if I have my 1,000 calories by lunchtime, that then I've had enough that I won't binge that night because I've eaten enough in the first half of the day.
mm,
And
mm,
for neurodivergent women, autistic, ADHD especially, myself, I just finished a deficit and gave myself a week off tracking just as a bit of a brain break. And as soon as I give myself the time off tracking, I know I'm not getting what I need because I get distracted, I
mm.
hyperfocus,
You
I
just can't
either,
even like you don't really know your cues as well. You don't even
yeah,
know
yeah,
like how
absolutely.
to tell that you're hungry, like
Yeah.
until it's too late and you're like absolutely starving. Like you can't pick up those cues beforehand. So
And
yeah.
neurodivergent women report a lot of the time the hunger cues that they get don't necessarily feel like hunger. So they'll get
Yeah.
head spins or they'll get anxiety or they'll get different kinds of symptoms that don't necessarily relate to a feeling of like discomfort in their in their stomach, they get
Mm.
things in other ways. And I think being able to track your food, it doesn't have to be a forever thing. But if you are someone who struggles with binging and you do not know how much you eat during the day, if I had asked you when you started if you were eating enough, do you think you would have said like, yes, I'm definitely eating enough during the day?
Yeah,
Or
I would have said, yeah, I'm eating more, like I'm eating too much. And one of the things as well with the tracking that I remember now is that I was very hesitant to do it to begin with because it felt too like similar to, disordered eating. I was like, well, I'm trying to get away from this disordered kind of pattern.
Mm,
I don't want to be like tracking everything. But yeah, it actually turned out that when I did start tracking things, I was like, okay, well, actually, I'm not eating enough.
yeah,
And I was just getting that data and like it becomes a tool rather than, I don't know, I think like MyFitnessPal and stuff has like very negative association with like just being for dieting, but it can actually just be for collecting data and seeing that you are having enough. That's a useful thing to see
yeah.
before even looking at any changes in your diet or anything like that.
Yeah, 100%. The first thing we always tell everyone to do in long game, because obviously I'd never advocate or support people going into a diet phase or a deficit phase as soon as they join long game. The first thing I always need to see is like, it's not even about changing, because again,
Mm,
people think when they come into a program, they're going to have to change everything. Change requires a lot of conscious energy.
mm,
And our brains like to run off a lot of subconscious and automatic processing. The more change, the more present and conscious you have to be about every single thing you're doing, the more overwhelmed you get. And this is why people burn out when they make too much change too soon. So the thing I always say is like, and my advice for anyone, if you're not in long game and if you need to understand like how can I actually work out if I'm eating enough, is like, well, don't change anything.
mm,
Just go onto MyFitnessPal, put in what you ate yesterday. Again, we need to steer away from this all or nothing mindset that's like, well, I didn't weigh all my food, so how am
yeah,
I
it
supposed to
doesn't, yeah.
know? Like, just get a general sense of
Mm,
what you eat in a day, and it can be really tempting if you're going to track that day to change your choices or make better choices or try and manipulate the data somehow. Just get an accurate read on what you eat, because honestly, you might not need to change that much. It
mm,
might be that you need to have an extra scoop of oats in your porridge in the morning.
mm,
I'm a big porridge girl, and when I was realizing I needed to eat more, it was like an extra scoop of porridge oats in
mm,
my oats. If you aren't getting enough protein and you don't want to add like, a heap of chicken breast, or you feel like you can't add more volume to your food, it's like a scoop of protein powder in your porridge. If you're a
mm,
smoothie person, a scoop of protein powder in your smoothie. You might not need to revolutionize your whole entire lifestyle. You just might need to add an extra spoonful of this or an extra spoonful of that. Or, maybe you need to take away a spoonful of something, because most people, I hazard to say, most women are probably too high a carbohydrates, unless you're one of those people who grew up with Atkins mothers who are terrified of carbohydrates. But
yeah.
most people are too high carbohydrates, too high in the fats, too low in the proteins. And you might just need to manipulate those and play with the ratios and add something in here and take it away here. It's
Mm,
the reason we don't do meal plans in long game, because everyone gets so excited about a meal plan for the first 4 weeks, but then it becomes rigid and then it
mm,
becomes a trap that you feel like you can't get out of. And if I step outside of the meal plan, I don't have the knowledge to make the decisions to keep myself on track.
mm,
And then you're not actually learning anything, you're just following instructions. What do you feel
mm.
like you've learnt about food or preparing food, or I guess even just the way you eat since being in long game?
Yeah, so I think like food just in general has always been such an iffy area for me because I think yeah, I had all of these rules about like what good food is and what's not good food and just tracking and being more aware. I definitely like when I first started tracking, I noticed I wasn't eating enough protein. And I was very like, "Oh, I don't want to have like protein powder because I kind of don't really like it. And so I was like trying to work out different ways that I could increase my protein without having protein powder. And like I found a like really high protein Greek yogurt that I add to my breakfast. And like that was just my breakfast that I had every single day. And it had like so much protein in it. It was amazing and I enjoyed it and it was yum. And so like I was just learning how to read like to read nutrition labels or to work out what I needed, not from a perspective of what's going to be the lowest calories, but instead looking at the protein and looking at the macros and things, which I think is just like, such a big shift, because I think you're always just like, before this, I was always just like, okay, what's going to be the lowest calories? How can I get the lowest calories? But that's not always going to fill you up, and that's not always going to make you feel good. So, I learned a lot in that regard about just how I can build up my meals, and also like just packing myself some food like for the day, especially being a stay-at-home mum. Like, if we were going out to the zoo or going out to do something at the playground, it was like, yep, pack the kids' food, but don't worry about me. Like, I'll just leave it, like I'll just eat when I get home. And then I'm absolutely starving because I haven't eaten anything. And then I was like, well, why? Why am I packing food for my kids and not for myself? So, I started packing myself snacks and, eating like more regularly, and amazingly, like I felt good. I felt more regulated. I felt, just all of these really positive things. And then another thing for me was like I was always making things too complicated, or it was always a barrier of being like, um, I'm not really good at cooking. So like I'm never going to be able to do, these like these beautiful meals and things. And I think this is also why things like fitness or like challenges kind of derail me a bit, because there are these like specific recipes that you have to follow, and I'm like, fuck, I don't have these like 100 different sauces, and like I don't have the right pan or whatever. And I was so black and white about it that I was like, I can't do it properly, so that I may as well not do it at all. And then I realized, like, how can I just simplify this and make it like so easy? And I did things like just prepared a bunch of like chicken at the start of the week that we would have for different meals throughout the week. And like you can have them for lunches and dinners. So I had my protein sauce and it was ready and cooked. And then like I had like some boiled eggs ready as a snack. And just so like I was breaking things down. I don't know if it was just because I had more capacity like in my mind, because I wasn't like stressing about, oh my God, I have to get this all perfect in this short amount of time. I was like actually allowing myself time to work it out, to work out what works for us as our family.
And you had more capacity because you weren't so fucking hungry.
Well, yeah, as well. Like, it's like, wow, I can actually make decisions
I
and
can think.
think clearly because
Yeah.
my brain is fueled. Like, it's just crazy the impact that like regularly eating and eating enough can have. And it's like, we know this and yeah, we need to eat more. But like, until you actually do it and you actually see how good you can feel,
Yeah.
it's like, why was I ever doing anything different?
Yeah.
Like it's just,
I'm
yeah.
on such a warpath with the normalization of mothers being tired
Mm,
because of course we're tired. Of course none of us have had a full night's sleep in like 5 years. Like I'm not saying that that side of things should change or that there's some magical pill and you'll just be not tired at all, but the
mm,
tired that comes along with not being able to take care of yourself, the tired that leads you to eat in a way that's not in alignment, the tired that means you can't physically move your body or exercise. So many women come into long game and talk about feeling tired. And then the first thing I do is address their caloric intake. And then suddenly, what a surprise, you're not so tired anymore. Like, oh
mm,
my God, 1600 calories. Yeah, okay, maybe pre baby. When you weighed 55 kilos, I haven't weighed 55 kilos since I was in like year 10, but maybe pre baby, 1600 was okay, but you're 30 kilos heavier now. 100 calories is not going to touch the sides of
mm,
your plus 30 kilo body. And
mm,
unfortunately, the thing that like you've said and like so many women don't understand is that you have to eat for the body that you have right now. You
mm,
have to
mm,
get her highly like firing on all cylinders, functioning really well, feeling really good, being energized, waking up in the morning, not feeling like you need to have a coffee straight away or otherwise shit is going to hit the fan.
mm,
Fuel the body you have now, then do timely intermittent deficit phases if you feel like you need to lose body fat.
mm,
You might need to recontextualize your understanding of how much weight you lose if you're planning to put on muscle because like I have 21% body fat, I think, at 80 kilos. So even what we imagine in our minds, what our body should weigh, which is why the weight conversation really needs to step out.
Mm,
and what you weigh on the scales becomes somewhat irrelevant because
mm,
you don't actually know what your body will weigh when you put on muscle, when you get strong, when you
mm.
become really competent. And so many of us are still attached to these little markers of success. Like, I know I'll feel good when I'm this on the scales. I know I'll feel
Yeah.
good when I'm this, dress size, etc., which is bullshit as well. In the end, it all just has to come back to how you feel in your body,
Mm.
and that being the driving factor for then the decisions that you make with regards to your food and your exercise.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said as well, once you start to see yourself differently and like love yourself more, you might actually realize you don't need to lose all this weight or make all these changes in order to be happy. It's like it even could be simple as like you're just not eating enough. And so your brain doesn't have the ability to functioning properly and enjoying life and things like that. And it's like what a difference it can make.
Yeah. How do you feel different in your body and how you relate to your body since being a part of Long Game?
I just have so much more like respect for it. And yeah, I don't know, it just to see how, like, I guess, like, reflecting over the year that I've kind of been part of Long Game and thinking at the start of it, where would I have wanted to be, a year later? And, maybe I was saying to myself, "I wanna lose 30 kilos, I wanna blah, 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 blah." But actually where I wanted to be was probably where I am now in terms of I just wanted to be happy with my body, to be neutral about these these things like, the scale, the number. It's not something that is like gonna derail my whole day if it's like higher or these things. And it's like these this focus on these other things that were just bringing me down so much. And instead it's like I can just be happy with how my body is now and how it's going to continue to change, because it's like it's not always going to be, we're not always going to be able to be our leanest, and we're not always going to be able to be our most fit, but you're allowed to love yourself through all of those different stages of your life, because, it's completely fine. Like it's still your body and it's still functioning the way it's supposed to. And yeah.
This still deserves respect.
Mm,
Yeah, I think it's like, and that's not to say that you won't have this baby and then go on some epic journey and you might lose 30 kilos, or you
mm,
might go on an epic strength quest and become the strongest, most jacked, ripped version of Ruby that's ever existed. And that
yeah.
will come off the back of this experience in Long Game. I think
Mm,
what I like to kind of propose to people is like, what if you gave yourself 5 years to do
mm,
this?
mm,
Because it's the shame and it's the negative self-talk and it's the way you're relating to yourself as always being behind or never being enough, that is going to derail you faster than a packet of Tim Tams ever will. It's
mm,
like everything that needs to change for women to actually get those goals. And, I love to talk about how when you become so in love with yourself and in love with the process and in love with the way you move your body, 9 times out of 10, like women do often go and get those aesthetic goals that they
mm,
were looking for, and they get them in a way that feels really good. I was looking in the mirror at the gym just this morning off the back of what's probably going to be my last deficit unless I randomly put on weight again in the future, which again could happen,
mm,
which would be a totally reasonable thing to happen. But
mm,
and looking at myself in the gym and being like, honestly, like this physical change in my body has taken a solid 3 years for me
mm,
to get to a place where I look in the mirror and I'm like, visible muscle definition, visible abs, very happy, like, do not if anything, I just want all my muscles to get way, way bigger. That's the
mm,
only thing I'm striving for, but that's taken at least 3 years. 3 years on the top of 10 years of personal development, 3 years on the
mm,
top of 30 years in martial arts, which is a big part of my perspective and my understanding on how long things take. 3 years on top of, having an eating disorder in my 20s and going through an epic journey with my body. The idea that any of this should happen fast,
mm,
and the fact that people are still selling programs where they advertise that these things should happen fast, it's like that attachment to any kind of speed is, like I said, with negative self-talk or feelings of shame, like
Mm,
needing things to be fast because you feel a sense of shame about your body and how it currently is the
mm,
thing that is going to keep you trapped in an endless cycle of not feeling like you're enough. Like
yeah.
when you can actually come to a place where you're like, it's okay for this to take a long time because it
Mm,
took a long time for me to get here to a
mm,
place. Like it was 20, 30 years of taking on this cultural messaging that we all need to be little and hairless and childlike for some reason. Now we're
mm,
all understanding what those reasons are.
yeah.
But it took us a long time to get here, so it's gonna take us a long time to rewire and
Mm.
change all of that.
And it's having that trust in yourself too. I think that's the thing, like trust that you do have the skills to be able, like pretty much you have the skills to do whatever you want to do. If you decide tomorrow that you want to be like super muscly, like you can actually do that, and you can do that without
Mm.
punishing yourself to get to that end goal, you know.
Yeah.
It's that trust and that, yeah, that pride in yourself that you, rather than looking at shame. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think so much of everything we learn through social media, a lot of that undermines that sense of self-trust.
Mm,
Or, one of the things that I know women struggle with in long game is when they come in because it's not a heavily prescriptive program. So it's not
mm,
like, "Come in, do this, do this, do this." It's, "Come in, and then here's
mm.
the workouts, here's the food information, make a decision." And they're like, "Oh, how do I know I'm gonna make the right decision?" And that's like, "Okay, step through the onboarding. We're gonna take you through a journey so that you can make these decisions for yourself. How do I know I'm gonna make the right decision?" You don't.
Mm, mm,
But you're going to need to experiment with this, and that's when it comes into, like, it will take time because the last thing I want is for someone to leave long game and be like, "I didn't get anything out of it. I didn't learn anything. I don't know what to do." I want
mm,
people to leave long game and be like, "I know how to eat at maintenance. I know
mm,
how to work out my maintenance numbers. I know if I wanna lose weight, how to do a deficit. I know if I go to the gym and someone hands me a program, I know how to follow that program.
mm,
If
mm,
someone's on that equipment over there, I know that that's a lat pull down, so that is a vertical pull. Okay, if I need to do a vertical pull, I could go onto the assisted chin up, and that's gonna be the same as a lat pull down, and I can make those decisions and feel confident about that.
mm,
Versus, any other program that's just like, here's the food, eat this
mm,
exact food, here's the program, follow this exact program. If you don't do that, you won't get your results. And so you don't know what to do anytime you need to, move away from those.
absolutely. Yeah.
So you are currently, as you said, 26 weeks pregnant, which is very
Mhm.
exciting. You've spoken about how different this experience has been compared to previous pregnancies. And I know that when you first let me know, you were saying even the conception journey was very different to what you've experienced. Can
Mm.
you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is my 3rd pregnancy, and for the other 2, it took quite a while. So for our first pregnancy, it took about 12 months to fall pregnant. We didn't have to do any medication or anything like that. I was just working with a naturopath, and it was just taking some time to fall pregnant, and then when we did, it was all good. But then for my second pregnancy, it took about 13 months, and we did some fertility treatments in order to make that happen. And yeah, so then when we were, I guess, planning for another baby, we were like, okay, well, based on history, it's going to take about 12 months. And we were very surprised to find out that it did not take 12 months this time. It was the very first month trying. And I honestly, like, the thing that I look back on comparing this pregnancy to previous ones is just the place that I am in, and like like I was not, I've been nourishing my body, like actually eating enough. And yes, I've been going to the gym, but it wasn't about, like I say, it wasn't about trying to lose weight or trying to reduce my size. It was just about getting stronger and feeling fitter. And I was like starting to do running and stuff. So I was like really physically in a good place, as well as mentally in a really good place too. And like, I don't know how much, I don't know if you can say how much your mental health or like your thoughts and things can impact conception. I really look at this as I'm a completely different person to how I was when I was trying and falling pregnant with my first 2 compared to this one. And I guess as well, like I have a lot of those positive habits that I've already built up before falling pregnant, and also like this mindset of like, it's okay if I have to take some time off, or it's okay if things aren't going to be, if I'm not going to be hitting 100% all the time, because actually I don't need to. And I think that's really helped me as well through the journey. In like the early stages, I was feeling good. And then, like you kind of get first trimester, mid first trimester, and like not feeling too good. So I was like, that's all right. I'm just going to do one gym session a week. I'm just going to eat what I feel like I can eat. I'm not going to worry about it. And then you get into second trimester and you're feeling a bit better. And I started increasing my exercise, and like, I was just like marveling at myself for even being able to do stuff like just do burpees and things like that, like at like 25, 26 weeks pregnant, which I know it's not for everybody, but this is my third pregnancy and I had never been able to do this in my other two, because I just didn't have this like lack of urgency and like pressure and stuff that I have in this one, where I'm like, even if tomorrow I wake up and I can't exercise for the rest of my whole pregnancy, I'm going to be okay. Like, even if I just can't eat properly, like, I can't eat proper meals for the rest of my pregnancy, I'm going to be okay. And like, yeah, just that, I don't know, I just feel really like I have a lot of trust in myself and my body this time. And that feels really nice. So, yeah. And then
Did it derail
interesting.
your plans a little bit, thinking it was gonna take 12 months?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and, initially I was like, "Oh, shit," like, I was just in a really good, phase, like, as in, like, I was just feeling really good about my body, and, like, I was worried about that changing, but I mean, like, yeah, it's just kinda offset by that self-talk that, like, this is just a season and I will get back to things, and I do have the ability to do that, when I need to, and, um it's gonna be okay. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know, I'm really enjoying this pregnancy, which is nice. So yeah, a bit earlier than we expected, but it's nice.
It's so exciting, and it's just like, it's one of those times where, I'm constantly floored by the things that people get out of long game, because, I'm here because I've created a program that I feel like I needed, that would have helped me in my late 20s, early 30s change how I feel about food, change how I feel about training, and the idea that there could be consequences that could be so significant as, being able to conceive easier and have an easier pregnancy journey. I hadn't even
Mm,
considered that as something. And if I were a lesser coach with a lesser sense of moral compass, that would be the first thing I splatter across all of my marketing,
yeah.
that is like cheaper than IVF, better than, but yeah, when you
Yeah,
sent me that message initially being like, I think, long game and my journey with long game has been one of the reasons why this happened so fast. It was just
yeah,
magical, because
yeah.
again, it's nothing that I ever would have considered. And I love what you talk about, the idea of it being a season,
Mm,
because I think it is really common for women, and it's how I feel having had one child and considering having a second one. And you have that whole like, just got my body to like where I want it to be, or I feel like I've just got myself on the journey. And to be able to sit in that, acknowledge it, but then be like, but now I trust myself enough and I feel resourced enough that I can go through another pregnancy, or I can have another child and feel as though on the other side of that, I know I'll be okay and I can get back on
mm,
and I can start doing all the things again. Is such a big part of long game, because
mm,
we have to acknowledge our seasons. We can't be
yeah,
pushing ourselves beyond our capacity. And for some women in long game, their current season is that they walk and they listen to the podcast or they listen back to the calls. And that is what they have capacity for. And for
yeah,
other women in long game, they're doing 4 workouts a week and they're present for every part and they're showing up for everything and they've got capacity to engage to that depth. And yeah, the way it's evolving into much more of a full spectrum or full service ecosystem that
mm,
allows for all these different capacities. And dare I say, we're contemplating or on the edge of potentially bringing in another tier, which would be
mm.
a lower cost tier, which then makes it even more accessible, is super exciting. From your perspective as someone who's now working inside of long game, has your understanding of how the program works changed going from participant to team member?
What I really love about the long game, and it kind of ties in nicely to like I have a degree in education, is that you are trying to educate women and give them these skills for their life, in the same way that a teacher would give their students these skills so that they can use them when they're outside of the classroom 10 years later. It's that kind of thing where here's the information, here's what you can do with it. And I'm trusting you that you can actually do this and you can make these decisions for yourself. And I think that's why, I love being a part of it, is because it isn't just another program, it's this thing that's building women up, giving them the education, giving them the skills to survive across all those different seasons of life that you're inevitably going to go through. It's like, at one point in time, yeah, you can be doing those 4 workouts a week and like fully engaged in things, but inevitably things are going to happen. There's going to be sickness, there's going to be holidays, there's going to be like all of these different things. But if you have those skills and you can actually trust yourself and know that you can move through these different seasons yourself, then, you're going to be okay. And I think that's why I really enjoy being part of it. And I guess seeing how, yeah, all of the information is presented and continues to be presented. There's just so much to learn about these things. And it's like, you think like you have like a conversation with someone, or like in one of the calls, there'll be something that comes up and then you go down this little rabbit hole, and it's like all of these other areas and how it's all tied into like fitness and how we see our bodies and all of these things. And it's like, you just don't realize how intertwined everything is and why we are thinking the way that we have been for so many years, because
Yeah.
it is all like, intermingled with everything. So yeah, I really love it from that perspective. And just, like I would shout from the rooftops that this is like the best program. And maybe I'm biased now because I'm part of the program, but I really genuinely like, this is something that has like, I don't even have the words for it, but it's like, it's changed my life. And I just want other women to have this experience and to feel like this. And, it's just, yeah, I can't say any more like of how much I love it. So yeah.
Stop, because you're gonna make me cry. Has your perspective of me as a coach changed now that you get to see not only when I'm there standing on ceremony, educating, getting fully into my zone of genius, but now you actually get to see the batshit basket of crazy that operates behind the scenes. And I have to say, bringing Ruby into the long game has been one of the best things I could have ever done, because if ever there was a time when I needed someone to help me slow down,
Mm.
it is definitely in this season of life. But is it different now that you get to peek behind the curtain?
Honestly, not really though, because it was something that I feel like we could see as members from the very beginning of like how much thought and effort and planning from your part went into everything. And so like, it's not like being on the other side, I'm like surprised of how much work you do or anything like that, because I think that was pretty obvious to begin with. I just always marvel at your brain and like these ideas that you have. And I think it's just like so amazing, like,
Yeah.
seeing you like just get all this stuff out. And I'm like, I wish I could have all of these ideas and things like that. But I think that's kind of why we work well together, is like you are like the ideas and like all of these amazing things. And I'm like, all right, let's work out how we're going to like step this out, plan it, Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't think, I'm not like, you're exactly the same as a
It hasn't
boss
shattered any
as you
illusions.
are. No, 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 not at all.
I think that's really good, because I think, I don't like when you meet someone and they turn out to be not like they
Mm,
are or
no,
how they
yeah.
present. So that's good to know. But yes, I recently showed up to a get together between Ruby and I with a like 45, 50-page document of like, okay, I wrote this yesterday. How are we going to do this? What's the plan? I was going to do it like this. And you're like, let's scale it back. Let's
Yeah.
simplify. Let's make it a bit more streamlined. And all of that is just, when I think about the course that we're putting together, which is called Pre-Game, which is all about the work behind the workouts,
Mm,
everything that I feel like people need to know and understand before they even step into the gym. And it's a lot. Like, we go through foundations of mindset. We go through understanding like intentions behind your behavior, intentions behind why you want what you want, why you've joined, why you're here. We go through some body politics, we go through some nutritional fundamentals, and then there's even a community layer where part of that course is stepping through and talking about sisterhood and sisterhood wounding and the way you're comparing yourself to other women. Like, it is a chunky as fuck course that I want women to do before they even step into the gym, which I think is going to be frustrating for some people because they're like, I came here, I want to work out, I want to get the aesthetic results. But it's part of what we've already spoken about, that slowing down, and how when you can actually understand what you're doing, why you're doing, and how to actually get the results you want, what's been motivating you in the past, what you want to use to motivate you in the future, when you can get all of that perspective and then the actual evidence-based understanding of how to do these things properly and get the actual result, it's a one-way path.
Mm,
Or it's a one-way, I say it's a one-way path with like inevitable little backslides here and there of like, yeah, you're going to lose weight and then you're going to put on weight again and then you'll lose it again and put it on again. Like, it's a
mm,
normal thing in life. But what I want for women is to no longer have this epic yo-yo experience of like, I felt really good about myself and then I fell, quote unquote, fell off the wagon and then I felt really
mm,
bad about myself. I want women to instead be in an empowered place where they're like, I was working out, but then life got really hard and I put on some weight again, but I had all the tools and resources and was understanding enough about my mindset so that I could apply the tools and resources and
mm,
just go back to the place that I wanted to be in with
mm,
no negative feeling or no hectic self-abandonment. Just, in the end, like the biggest thing, the biggest motivator behind all of this is like, it kills me every day to see women hate themselves and feel bad
mm,
about themselves. And I say that as someone who like has nearly taken a long walk off a short pier because I hated myself so much and I
mm,
hated my body and I resented myself and I resented the things that I did and I like beat myself up over and over again for how I ate or how I didn't eat, and I spent
mm,
so much of my life with this epic self-hatred. My whole purpose in life is to just make sure that women don't hate themselves. I'm just over women hating themselves. And I get a little bit upset anytime people see me on social media and think that I'm just here to sell. And I have to remember that I can't control everybody's perceptions. And someone did call me
mm,
unethical because I was trying to sell 12-month memberships, but we've moved past that with grace
mm,
and allow the projections to be theirs and theirs alone. We're coming to the end of our allotted time. If someone was watching your journey in long game, or maybe I know you've got lots of friends and family who've kind of been watching you on your journey, how would you describe what the community is like at the moment? I feel like especially right now, the community is
mm.
popping off, but how
Yeah.
would you describe it to someone who wasn't inside the long game?
It's just this, this group of women who are realizing over time, like all of these similarities that we have, like we've all got different life experiences and different pathways and things that have led us to all to this point. And it's like the more that we discuss things as a group and share things, we realize like, oh my God, some of these things that we have been through or these thought patterns that we've had, like it's all the same. And that in itself is so empowering because it's like, you're not just the only person in the world feeling like this. And you can see people, you can see women like a little bit further ahead on their journey, and like that's inspiring because you're like, I can get to that point. And then you see women that are just coming in and you're like, everyone's building them up and like showing them this sisterhood, this community. And it's just a really nice, safe space to be in. And, we're doing the social club now for people that are in Melbourne, and it's just nice to like meet up with these people and discuss and chat and learn about other people, and I don't know, it's just a really, really nice place to be and a nice group to be a part of.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with the word, just using the word, like it feels like such a safe space.
Mm,
There's very strong boundaries on that group in terms of, the whole idea is that we're here to be supportive of each other. And I've kind of set the boundaries out as if we were in a women's circle, because that's another
mm,
it's been another flurry of mine as a women's circle facilitator. And obviously with my social work background, I've done a lot of group therapy and things like that. And knowing that if a community is going to be successful and, promote the values of the program, it's got confidentiality, it's a safe space. We're not necessarily
Mm,
there offering advice. Like, I love that people can
mm,
come in and especially, we have different sections to the forum. So we have a motherhood, business, kitchen and general forum as well as the social club. And I love how women come into the motherhood forum and just like, oh my God, guys, this is what's going on for me right now. And there's no
mm,
advice giving unless it's asked for. It's just like
mm,
so much support. Or I've had other women come into the general forum and like talk about, I just getting up there on my long game journey and then she broke her ankle, and having
mm,
all the women come in and be like, this is just a small season. This is just a blip on your journey.
mm.
Telling them experiences of theirs, which I love because it's like the super ADHD thing to relate someone else's experience to your experience.
Yeah.
But they come in and I just love that I'll open up the app and someone will have come in with something really big, like I'm going through a separation or I'm experiencing this right now or I've had this injury. Or we had a mama recently, one of our ambassadors had to call an ambulance for her daughter,
Mm,
and she was saying how she'd had such a hard night and, it had been such an ordeal. And when I open up the app and I'm just getting in there at like 8 a.m. and there's like
mm,
30 comments on something, 30 comments of support, of love, of outpouring, of like, we've got you, of, do you
mm,
need anything? And it's everything that I wanted from the community side of things. And I mean, amplifying that more when we've got our retreat, which is by the time this podcast comes out, the retreat will be coming up in 2 weeks' time, which
mm.
again is just another epic
Exciting.
layer of community.
Yeah.
So that is so exciting to me. Finishing up, I mean, the question I ask every single person when they come onto the podcast is about making it disgustingly easy. And I love to ask this from the perspective of an actual member. So
Mm,
if someone was looking at, I guess, everything that you've experienced on your journey in long game, moving through the conversations around food, moving through the conversations around like a sense of not enoughness or learning how to make workouts work for you, regardless of everything you've done in the past, or even just learning how to trust yourself again.
mm.
What do you think would be a disgustingly easy first step that someone could make to start making changes or move in a new direction with their health and their fitness?
I mean, well, I would say join the long game as your first step, but,
That's
like
very
if
easy. It's
I mean,
very,
it's
very
just you just
easy.
click join, it's fine. Um, but yeah, it's just pairing it back and just, um, I guess it's just that doing that, aiming for that 60% of effort 100% of the time. It's like whatever you can do to take a load off and take the pressure off, whether that means reducing how much you're trying to work out and just being like, I'm just going to do one workout a week, or whether that means like simplifying your food to, not make it like 100, amazing recipes every week and just like having the same thing for dinner, if that's going to simplify everything. It's like, just stop trying to make it so complicated and just tone it down and just, yeah, just see or realize where the areas that you need to reduce the pressure and reduce the stress, and how can you do that. So yeah, like it's going to be different for everybody, but instead of doing more, do less. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to do more. Like it's, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's like, what do I need to stop doing? And
Yeah.
that's a huge thing that I'm putting into that pre-game course of like exactly what you said. Like, where can I simplify? Where can I make
Mm,
things easier for myself? Why do I always have this perspective? I have to strive and grow and be more and do more.
mm,
You know what? That's exhausting, especially
mm,
that's why, women are hitting 30, 35 and burning out and struggling and getting a neurodivergent diagnosis and struggling some more, and then
mm.
finally fighting the long game and then
And
onwards
then
and
everything's
upwards.
good.
Yeah. Awesome. Ruby, thank you so much for sharing your story. I think what I love about all of this, and I'd love to get more long game members on to chat through their story or their experience in long game, because it's not some dramatic overnight transformation, right? It's what happens when we stop trying to fix ourselves with discipline and going hard and instead start actually building a different relationship with our body, and that relationship changing over time, because that is really what long game is about. And if you are listening to Ruby's story today and found yourself thinking, wow, that sounds so much like my experience, the stop start cycle, the black and white thinking around food, feeling like you're behind or like you can never kind of get ahead of the game in terms of your health and your fitness, then I want you to know that there is absolutely another way you could be approaching that. If you want to learn more about the long game or see if it might be a good fit for you, all you need to do, your disgustingly easy first step, is send me a DM on Instagram with the word ready. And like I said, there's no pressure, there's no awkward sales pitch, just a conversation around where you're at and whether this community could support you in the next phase of your journey. So, in the meantime, remember, when nothing is certain, anything is possible. You've got this. And we at Long Game have got